Saving enough money to buy gold can be one of the hardest transitions we have as a stacker. Hey everyone, Tactical Timmy here. I wanted to talk about how we can save money and buy gold. I know this is something that can be really difficult, that stackers tend to start off with buying silver because it does have such a lower barrier to entry. Gold, you have to save up. You have to save up so much more to buy this a 4th ounce American Gold Eagle than you do to go out and buy American Silver Eagles. And we tend to get rewarded in life when we are patient and we save up for things. So I wanted to go through a few different ways that we can save more money and actually buy gold sooner. The number one thing that I see in our society today is people are spending far too much money on their phones and on electronics. It's just one of those things that you can probably go without a lot of things. You don't have to have the newest set of headphones. You can use corded headphones. You can use an old set of AirPods. You don't have to use the very newest set of AirPods. You can go with a lot of older stuff. Take the used phones from your family and use those. Also, there's no reason when you have T-Mobile Connect plans out there for $15 a month, 4 gigs of data, for you to be spending a ton of money on unlimited plans. Just wait for when you're on Wi-Fi. You don't have to be scrolling on your phone constantly. As much as I'd love you to be watching Tactical Timmy YouTube videos, that doesn't matter. You have to make sure you're managing your phone budget. Along with that, and I consider your phone a large source of our entertainment nowadays. And in the entertainment world, there's a lot of ways. That's the biggest discretionary expense out there that we can actually control. Get rid of your subscriptions. I know for me, I had MLB TV at one point, and it was ridiculous. They had terrible blackouts, and I think I spent over $100 a year on that. $100 will go a long way in actually purchasing a Gold Eagle. You make 2 or 3 of those $100 changes, and all of a sudden, you're going to be able to purchase a 10th ounce Gold Eagle. So ditch your subscriptions. Get into free forms of entertainment, whether it's going to the library and getting books. You can do free audiobooks through your local library a lot of the time, watching YouTube videos here, or even getting outside and doing something outside. That can often be something free that you can do. So we've got hit on the entertainment and the phones. Let's also hit on another huge life expense, and that is going to be our food budget. Probably the worst thing that I do is actually going out to eat, because going out to eat really does add up over time. You don't realize it, but $10 here, $10 there, because frankly, you can't eat out anywhere, even fast food, for less than $10 nowadays. That's how it's gone with inflation. When you walk out the door and you plan on purchasing food out, you're going to spend more than $10, and it's probably going to be closer to $15. And those little things add up, especially if you're doing it several times a week. Say you eat out for $10 all of your work days. Well, all of a sudden, that's already $50. Well, over the course of a month, that's going to be $200. And look at that. If you cut that out to eat habit for just a month, you've already saved up almost a whole 10th ounce Eagle. So you see how these little things start to add up over time. That's the same thing with the phones, the same thing with your subscriptions and eating out. You have to be willing to give up these little things if you want to save more and get more out of your savings. Another thing that kind of goes along with eating is, I'm guilty of it, I tend to drink my calories. I love to have a good Coca-Cola every now and then. With that, it can get expensive. And I know some people are going to be different things. For me, it's Coca-Cola. For other people, it's going to be coffee. And other people still, it's going to be maybe alcohol or booze. And you have to find what is your vice and how can I make it a controllable thing. So for me, I limit it to 1 Coke a day. Or for some people, they have to completely cut it out because it's not something that they can have that self-control over, and they just can't have it in the house. And for certain things, that's maybe the best thing to do, is completely get it out of your house and become the kind of person that doesn't drink Coca-Cola, doesn't drink alcohol, or doesn't, consume their calories or drink their calories, because that's something that does add up. You don't realize it, but now for my example of the Coca-Cola, it's basically $12 or more for that 12 pack of Coke sometimes. Sometimes you can get them on sale, and that's typically when I'm going to be buying them, but it can get very expensive, and that does add up, especially if you're having multiple of those drinks over the course of a week. That goes along the same idea with coffee. I know a lot of people love the coffee, having coffee out, and I myself in college, I went through a phase where I really enjoyed a good cup of coffee, but that's something that you got to figure out a way to control. Maybe you can find a cheaper way to do it at the house, and that would be a much more productive use of your time as opposed to spending the time and going to the coffee shop and spending that money. I know that's kind of one of those cliche things that we all know that we can cut out, but it's not something that we think about when we want that cup of coffee and we want that little pick-me-up. You're not thinking about saving for gold when you're going to the coffee shop. You're thinking about getting that little pick-me-up and trying to make it through the day. But if we can plan a little bit better and we don't have to rely quite as much on going out to eat, we're going to save a lot in the long run. Another aspect that I wanted to hit on was insurance, because there's a lot of people that feel like they have to have insurance, and we do need insurance in our lives. And some of the reason why we get into gold and silver investing is because it is a form of insurance. It's self-insurance for a rainy day if something bad does happen. But insurance is something that we should also consider having in our personal finance lives. I know if you're married, you need to be having that life insurance policy, but you should probably be going for term coverage and making sure that you are covered in an adequate amount, but you don't necessarily need to be doing whole life, because typically you'd be better off investing on your own than paying the higher costs for full life coverage. Now, another form that you can save in terms of insurance is typically to ditch full coverage on your cars. I know this is something that I've been guilty of in the past, of carrying full coverage on these used older cars, and that's something that you have to recognize, that once the value of your car has dropped significantly, there's no sense in having that full coverage on your car. It's not going to be worth it when your car is an old beater Honda Civic or an old beater truck. There's no sense in driving it around with full coverage on it. So moving on from insurance, because there's lots of different ways that we can save when it comes to insurance, and I'd kind of point you to a good insurance agent, or insurance broker, I should say, for more tips on how to save on your insurance. Let's move on to housing, because a lot of times that housing is going to be our biggest expense each month. And with housing, we want to look to save on rent, save on our home. In terms of if we're buying a home, we should try and save on that as well, because the smaller place we tend to buy, the less we're going to be paying in rent, the less we're going to be paying in terms of interest if we're buying a home when it comes to our mortgage. So if you can afford and you don't need all the extra space, typically if you can go with a smaller place, that's going to work out better for you, and you're going to save money in the long run. And when you're saving money in the long run, it's going to mean you're going to be able to stack better in the long run. So I would encourage you to always try and look for the smaller place and not the Taj Mahal. The final thing that I would super encourage every single one of you to do is cut up those credit cards if you're not paying them off every single month. I know that a lot of people out there struggle with making sure that their credit cards are paid off, and that's something that you have to learn how to manage over time. It's okay if that's gotten out of hand, but you have to make sure that you learn how to manage it over time. Making sure that you're managing your debt is something that's really important in life. And you have to make sure that you are going ahead and paying down that really high interest debt. Because if you have high interest debt and you're paying that 15 to 25%, there's no way you're going to have enough funds to be stacking gold and silver. You're going to need to pay off that debt first and then start stacking all these beautiful coins. So I'm going to kind of leave it there. I think that kind of gives y'all a lot of different options for how you can save. If you have any questions on any of these specific options or specific things that I like to do when I'm trying to save, because these are all things that I am working on and trying to get better at doing. I'm not a perfect stacker and I make lots of these mistakes. I talked about how I need to limit my Coca-Cola usage and I need to limit the eating out. And I've made mistakes in the past about carrying full coverage on my cars. And I've lived in nice, extravagant places before. So all of these things are mistakes that I've made along the way. And I hope that you're able to learn from my mistakes and able to take that and actually stack more in the future, because saving for the future is something that is super, super important for all of us. I hope you all take care and have a fantastic rest of your day.